What is going on, everybody? It is Big L here, bringing you our Week 1 team builder and battle for Season 8 of the WPF Gyarados League. This week, we play Coach PardusV and his Lafayette Larvitar. He rebranded this season. Different team name, same really good coach. He's got a really scary team again this time around too. He has Speed Boost Blaziken. That's right, Speed Boost Blaziken was unbanned this season. Mega Venusaur, Primarina, Scizor, Heliolisk, Crocodile, Latios, Frostlass, Girder, regular Rotom, and Staraptor. So whenever I was prepping for his team, I'm just going to do a quick rundown before the battle. Speed Boost Blaziken, huge threat. Mega Venusaur, huge threat. Primarina, huge threat. I think you get the theme here. His whole team is just a huge threat. Whenever I was getting into prep, the things I thought would definitely come were Blaziken, Primarina, Scizor, Crocodile, Lati. I thought Mega Venusaur and Rotom would be the toss-up for his last spot. But nothing on his team that he brought would really confuse me too much, except for maybe like Helioptile. I don't think Helioptile is very good against me. But that's his team, and we will look at what I'm bringing for it, and here it is. So first up, we have the Space Potato himself, Deoxys Defense. Really basic set. Max HP, max defense, bold, spikes, recover, teleport, Nightshade. Nothing really too much to talk about here. This thing's just job is to potentially get up hazards and just live forever. Next up, we got my boy Cinnabon, the Alolan Raichu. Love me some Alolan Raichu. Max speed, max special attack, timid, holding a focus sash. This is my check if just in case Blaziken gets out of hand. If Blaziken can get a couple speed boosts up and get off a Swords Dance, I lose the game without this. The Focus Sash obviously ensures that I live any one hit. We have Psychic, Encore, Thunderbolt, and Surf. I have Encore just in case the Primarina wants to be some kind of a sub-calm mindset. I can bring it in, say, no more sub, no sub, no calm mind. You just keep doing that. You don't get to attack with those boosts. And then Thunderbolt, unfortunately, I wanted to run Volt Switch, but unfortunately, I needed Thunderbolt to be able to OHKO Staraptor. So I figured I needed to bring it just in case. And Surf, that's just there to hit Crocodile because it is immune to both of my stabs. Next up is Mega Diancie Mavis, the Queen of the Fairies. If you watched Fairy Tail, you get my nickname. Max speed, max special attack, just like Raichu. Unfortunately, his fastest Mons are 110. So my 110 Mons have to be max speed just to speed tie. Moonblast, Mystical Fire, Diamond Storm, and Substitute. Substitute is there. If I get in on a non-Scarf Crocodile or something, I'm figuring he's probably going to switch out. I can get that sub up while he switches in the Scizor, and then I got a free Mystical Fire the following turn. This thing, if I get it in the right spot, can just tear through his entire team. Next up is Shrimmered. He ain't got no type. Silvally. He's rocking 232 speed. That outspeeds the Crocodile. 252 attack and 24 HP. We have the Flying Memory. So we are Silvally flying. We have multi-attack, Flame Charge, Swords Dance, and Crunch. Crunch is there just for the Rotom, just in case he brings it. It was going to be Flamethrower to help with the Scizor, but I didn't really feel like I needed it too much. I felt like I had enough for Scizor. But multi-attack, obviously, we feel like Flying Stab will tear through his team. Multi-attack is such a strong move. If I get a chance to get off a Flame Charge and a Swords Dance, this thing could just win in the right position. Next up is Jitterbug, the Araquanid. Max HP, max Spadef, Water Absorb. This thing is here for the Primarina. If he's like a spec set, Sticky Web, Liquidation Lunge, and Mirror Coat. If he is the Specs Primarina, we live 2 unless he gets a crit on one of them. And the following turn, he can go for another Moonblast. we can hit that mirror coat and do massive amounts of damage right back to him. Lunge is there in case he tries to bring in something like the Scizor on this. We can get a lunge off, lower his attack, and really lower what it wants to do, especially if it's one of those banded sets. We basically take away his choice band if it tries to switch in on a lunge. And sticky webs, I would love to have the opportunity to get those up. Would really mitigate that speed boost from Blaziken if it comes in and it's automatically at -1. Takes that thing an extra turn to become a threat. And it takes away any potential scarf that he could have, like on his Crocodile or something. And last but not least, we have AirPods, the Noivern. He's rocking heavy duty boots and Frisk. This is my lead this week. It's faster than anything on his team that isn't scarfed, and if it is scarfed, we can see if it is. 188 speed, it's there to outspeed Scarf Primarina. I don't think he's bringing Scarf Primarina, but just in case he does, I can outspeed it if I need to get a Hurricane or if I want to do a fast pivot in front of it. That's fantastic. Max special attack, 68 HP. Timid, we have Hurricane, Defog, U-Turn, and Draco. We do not want hazards up on our side. He doesn't really have the best hazard setters on his team outside of Crook. I think he's bringing offensive Crook. I don't think he's bringing bulky hazard setting Crook. But just in case, I don't want hazards up, Silvally Flying, Araquanid, those things, they do not like hazards at all. In the new turn, I want a fast pivot, and Draco, that's just so I can get some big damage off on something. So, that was a quick rundown of the team. I'm going to pause for a second so I can get my screen resized, get everything, and we'll get into the battle. We'll see you in just a second. Alright, and we are back, and this is the battle. As you can see, he brought Blaziken, Venusaur, Primarina, Scizor, Crocodile, and regular Rotom. And as you can see from the team builder, we brought Deoxys, Raichu, Mega Diancie, Silvally, Araquanid, and Noivern. Like I said in the team builder, Noivern is my dedicated lead. I want to get a Frisk off because I do think he's going to try to anti-lead Deoxys. Deoxys defense is a good lead against him, so I think he's going to try to lead something like Crook or Scizor to stop me from wanting to stay in and just set up hazards. So I'm going to lead Noivern. I'm going to get my Frisk off, and I'm going to see what he wants to do. So hopping right into it, I lead my Noivern, and he leads Rotom. And I see that it has a Citrus Berry, which kind of confused me a little bit. I thought offensive Rotom looked pretty good against me. So I was kind of expecting maybe Scarf Trick, something like that. So I don't really know what I want to do to this thing. I don't switch into electric types very well. I brought a really offensive team. But I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to drop a Draco here. If this thing's really bulky, it'll be nice to get some good damage off on it because it's only, Rotom's only recovery is Pain Split. So it'll be nice to get some really nice damage off on it, and that's what I do. I just go ahead and drop the Draco. We do a really, really good chunk of damage. We make it eat its Citrus Berry turn 1, and it goes for a Volt Switch. And that tells me all that information on turn 1 tells me that is a more bulky Rotom. That Rotom is not meant to come in and do big amounts of damage. So he goes Primarina, and here I have to go for a U-turn. I can't stay in here. And I go right into my Araquanid as he goes for a sub. I'm like, okay, we can't be having this. I have to go out into my Alolan Raichu because if he is going to be sub, he's going to have Calm Mind. He's not going to bring sub without bringing Calm Mind. So I predict him to go for the Calm Mind here. I go right out into Alolan, and that's exactly what happens. He goes for the Calm Mind on my switch. So here, I have to go for Encore to say, that's all you're going to do. You're not going to hurt me. That's all you're going to do is sit there and Calm Mind. You just keep doing that. A Thunderbolt still breaks his sub every single time. So I go ahead and go for the T-Bolt, break his sub as he goes for the Calm Mind, which he had to force you to break the sub. That was the right play on his part. And here, I thought about going for Surf to predict the Crook, but I also thought, maybe it's early game. I don't want to over-predict early. If he's going to let me have damage on this, I'll take it. And if I would potentially get a crit, really, really weaken this thing. I could get a para. A lot of things could happen if I just go for Thunderbolt here, and that's what I do, but he does just go out into the Crook. And I noticed that it's not Intimidate. So that tells me that it's most likely Moxie, which means he's most likely Scarf, which is a set that I was really, really prepared for. And so here, like I said, it's immune to my Thunderbolt. So here, I think to myself, what Pokemon do I most want to get knocked off? I could very easily, predict the knockoff and go Deancey, who will take next to nothing from that. But again, he could just click Earthquake and knock my Raichu down to its sash. So I didn't want to risk Deancey early. Same thing goes with Silvally. I didn't want to take that damage on Silvally early. So I decided I'm just going to go out and do Araquanid. Now that I know what kind of set that Primarina is, it's not as much of a concern to me. I was really, really concerned with specs. So he goes for the knockoff, does a huge amount of damage to us, knocks off our leftovers. But I'm free. I just go ahead and fire off a liquidation here. I figure maybe I can get off and get a defense drop on maybe Scizor. I almost went for lunge there, but I figured liquidation was the safer play. And it does very, very little. That tells us this is a more bulky Venusaur, not as offensive. And so here, I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to take this as a chance to get my webs up. And he Mega Evolves. He goes for the Sludge Bomb. It does 24%. And I get my webs up. And I'm like, you know what? I'm content with that. I'm just going to go ahead and go for a liquidation. Maybe I can get a defense drop or something. And he brings in the Rotom, which is kind of surprising. That tells me he probably wants to defog. And it sells me on the fact that that is a Scarf Crocodile. And so I'm like, you know what? I want these webs to stay up. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure he kills me. I'm gonna click webs again, and he goes for defog. And so we get to play right, and I go ahead and go for another sticky web. And here I think to myself, you know what? That Sludge Bomb from Venusaur only did 24%, and if my calculations were right, that was a higher roll based on how much it did to me and how much I did to it with the liquidation. So I was like, I can live another one, so I could potentially get my webs back up again on the Venusaur. So I go ahead, I'm just going to go ahead and switch out into Alolan Raichu here to scare this thing out. And that's what I do. I go ahead, go out into Alolan as he goes for the Will-O-Wisp and misses, which it kept my sash intact and meant that I could play a little bit more recklessly with my Alolan than I normally would have. But I feel like that we both felt like that was kind of like a misplay on his part. He was saying after the game that he doesn't really know why he clicked that there. At the time, I was like, he figured out from the damage that I wasn't Water Bubble. So he knew he could burn me. But I guess he was thinking, the residual damage over time would be good to take me out. But I end up with webs in that situation because, if the burn kills me, I'm still going to be clicking sticky webs every turn. But here, I just decide, he's not going to let this Rotom go down. I'm going to go ahead and go for a Surf. And this Crocodile comes in, gets stuck in the sticky web, and we do a really, really big chunk off with the Surf. I see no reason to go for anything but Surf again here, even though he does go out into Mega Venusaur. And we do very pitiful damage. Now here, I know my sash is intact. I know he's a special Venusaur. He's probably packing Earth Power, which I figured. But I'm like, you know what? Venusaur is kind of a pain. And I know I can get 2 hits off on it. And I'm just going to go for Psychic here. I'm just going to get big damage off, go for the Psychic, and we do huge damage. As it goes for the Earth Power, which is kind of a pain. Here, I'm just like, I was thinking about clicking Thunderbolt, because I think Thunderbolt was a rolled kill, just in case he brought out the Scizor or the Primarina on the Psychic. But I don't think he was going to risk either one of them. But I was like, you know what? If he goes out into something like the Crocodile on the Psychic, I can just Surf it the following turn. It's not that big a deal. If he wants to play the switch around game, he can play the switch around game. I'm just going to attack what's in front of me. I'm going to click Psychic, and Cinnabon claims our first KO of the season, knocking out a very, very annoying Pokemon in Mega Venusaur. I will take a KO on that anytime you can give it to me. And that is one Mon down. Here, he goes out into Scizor, and this is a Pokemon, again, I don't really have the best switch-ins to. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go out into Araquanid because I'm pretty sure Venusaur was the only Pokemon that I could get webs back up on. So I kind of felt like Araquanid was kind of expendable here. So I went back out into Araquanid as he goes for the Bullet Punch, and a crit did 20%. That told me that this was not an offensive Scizor whatsoever. So here I'm thinking I'll just take some damage off on this if he wants to go for anything but a Bullet Punch here. So I'll just go ahead and go for the Liquidation as he goes into Rotom, which was kind of surprising to me. So I'll take that damage off on Rotom, and here we go back and forth playing the defog Sticky Webs game. Not really much going on here. We play this for a little while until eventually I realized, you know what? I don't really want to play this game anymore. He realizes he doesn't want to play this game anymore. He just Volt Switches, which I think was the right decision on his part. Here in another turn or so, he ends up going for a Volt Switch and knocking out the Araquanid. But I know there were a couple times in here I thought about clicking Liquidation, but you know what? I knew there was no other chance I'd have to get my webs up. He knocks out the Araquanid. He goes right back out into his Scizor, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to know what this thing's item is. I want to know what it's rolling with. Like if it's, I assumed it was leftovers, but I didn't know. Maybe it was Akaberry or something. I wanted to know what it was. So I'm like, I'm gonna go out into Noivern, and he has Rocky Helmet. So that tells me this is a more physically defensive Scizor, not especially defensive. So I think I'm kind of like bluffing that I have Flamethrower or Heat Wave, so he can't really stay in. And he's not offensive, so Bullet Punch isn't all that threatening to me. So I decide I'm just going to click a Hurricane here. If he wants to stay in and give me damage on this and risk getting confused, that's fantastic. If he goes out into Primarina, I can get a nice chunk of damage on that. And that's exactly what happens. He goes out into Primarina, and we hit the Hurricane. We're 1 for 1 on Hurricanes this season, which is awesome. And we get a nice chunk of 40% off on it. This turn, I have to U-turn out. That's fine. I have no issue with that. And I go out into Deoxys. I know this thing isn't Specs, so I know I can live hits from this thing with my leftovers. And he does go for the Moonblast here. That's fine. Doesn't do huge damage. I live 3 of those after leftovers. Not a big deal. So here, I'm just like, I'm going to go for a Nightshade. I'm faster. I get a nice chunk of damage off. I will let him keep Moonblasting me, but he goes for the sub. So I think he was maybe predicting me to teleport there, which I guess could have made sense. He said afterwards he didn't realize that Deoxys got Nightshade, so he might not have thought I had. He could have been predicting any number of things there. But I go for the Nightshade, and here I'm like, okay, I'm just going to break the sub. I'm not going to let him stay behind it. I'm faster. He goes for the Moonblast, and he gets a special attack drop again, which again doesn't matter against me here. I know I'm faster, so I could just go for I go for a Nightshade. Sorry, I thought I went for a recover there. I go for a Nightshade, just knock it out. I don't want to get him to get a crit or anything. So here, he goes out into his Rotom, and I'm just like, he's going to defog. I'm going to take this opportunity to get healthy, and I'm going to recover. So after leftovers, I'm back to full, and I'm like, you know what? Does this thing may or may not even have Ghost Stab. I thought maybe he'd have Hex since he has Will-O-Wisp. Maybe he has Hex. So I'm just like, I'm going to go ahead and try to get up a Spike. I know that Scizor is bulky, so if I can get some spikes up and make it, make it take some damage on its way in, that'd be fantastic. So, but it does go for the Shadow Ball, which is kind of a bummer. But here, I just go for a Spike. Again, I know I can live 2 of those, like 3 of those, and so I'm not real worried about it. So here, I decided to go ahead and go for another Spike. I see you guys go for the Shadow Ball, and here, I'm like, okay, I'm going to recover. If he defogs, then he defogs, but I get to live. So one of 2 things was going to happen on this turn. Either I was going to get healthy, or he was going to kill me, and my spikes were going to stay up. After I recover, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe I can teleport out, take the Shadow Ball, teleport out, go out into Silvally flying. I KO this thing with Flame Charge, and that puts me in a really, really good spot. And that's what I do here. I pick the perfect turn to switch to because he gets the special defense drop. We teleport, get out of dodge. We go right out into Silvally flying. And this is the freest Flame Charge of my life. Silvally claims the KO, gets that speed boost. So now Crocodile is no longer faster than us. It comes in, we get the nice multi-attack off, get the KO on the Crocodile. He comes out into the Scizor. We go for he goes for the Bullet Punch. It does really little damage. We go for the Flame Charge, get a good little chunk off. Not as much as I was hoping. But here, we do get a fortunate crit. He said he was going for Roost here, but he would have had to have roosted on the following turn also, most likely. And so we could have Swords Danced. We could have lost here without that crit, but I still think we were still in a very, very good position, regardless. So the crit, I don't think would have mattered. He would have had to have played perfectly and gotten some luck on his side to pull it back. But we do get the KO on Scizor, and in comes Blaziken. We go all with the multi-attack, get the KO on Blaziken, and we pick up the clean 5-0 win on Pardus. That was a very good game, much closer than the final shows. If that Hurricane hadn't hit on Primarina, that thing would have been a lot harder for me to wear down, especially with Alolan Raichu whittled down. Really bummed out that Deancey didn't even get to see the field. Silvally Flying was the great bring that I hoped it would be. I loved this set on Silvally. I realized in prep that Flying Stab kind of tore through his team if I could get rid of a couple Mons. And things went kind of perfectly. I'm not used to playing a team this offensively, but I figured it had to be against Pardus. The bulky Rotom and the bulky Scizor were not what I expected. They gave me some problems, but that's mainly because I was expecting offensive versions of them. That's GG to Pardus. If you liked, please like and subscribe or leave a comment if you haven't subscribed already. And then I'm going to have links down below to all of the other content creators in the WPF. So make sure you go check all of them out. All of them are probably better than me, and all of them probably make better content than me. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. So I will talk to you guys later. Take it easy.